program. Now,
Can't believe I'm doing this.
why? You have to explain some things.
Oh,
That's
I'll
not
explain
fair.
some things. Oh, I sure will. But we have to have a ground rule here, and I'm very serious on this.
Okay.
When I debate with anybody, I have one rule. You can get personal. I don't care about any of that.
When have I ever done that to you?
I'm just other people. The one thing you cannot do, or I will not debate, is you can't make stuff up.
Okay.
And you have soiled the turf and spoiled the water. As I was driving, I heard, here's a guy who never said Brady Hoke should be fired. Lie.
Really? Live on Fox, too, when I was screaming at you to say it and you wouldn't say it.
I said it before anybody else in print.
Ridiculous. There
Second,
were
and
18
then
bullets in the corpse. You came along and added 19.
And he's a Wojo and his media brother were whining. Why won't you give us play? Why won't you talk to us before the spring game? I was the exact opposite. I 100% endorsed what D'Antonio did. I said, how does anybody think he can possibly speak to the media before the spring game?
And
I got yelled at by people at my own paper that said,
you in that,
why
I
didn't
apologize.
you
are exonerated from... No,
too late, you soiled the jury pool.
Yeah, well, you soiled this entire piece.
Unbelievable.
This was terrible. First of all, explain to me...
Must have hit a chord.
You did hit a chord, because I'll tell you this. Listen, I'm not going to take exception to the entire piece. Not a fan of the entire piece, clearly. The part with the mealy mouth, they could have come out last night and shown more compassion to the victim's family. Are you really?
Oh, no, they did screw up last night.
Oh, stop it.
And another thing I'll make clear, and you did correct it, I believe, on the air, the column was written last night before the press conference today.
Then it renders it even more useless.
Well, no, that one thing about, and sure enough, they came out today and said all the right things about the victims and everything else. I think they knew last night's thing looked silly.
No,
it did. Here's why last night's thing looked silly.
You
and
for adding it as a critique.
This is why you have sounded silly, because you're running around. You're like Louanna Simon last night, holding the little paper. The report says he's exonerated. Okay, well, not completely. You did have to fire a staff member, Curtis Blackwell, because he didn't follow policy.
No, they didn't have to.
And oh, by the way, tomorrow, 3 players are still getting charged with sexual assault. You fell for the okie doke. You did. You fell for the... They handled this so well with such dignity.
They did the best they could in a no-win spot.
You don't even try to disseminate how did you get to this point where you're running around celebrating your coach saying,
wait a minute.
We are recentering our program.
You said you can't make things up. You just did it.
You have been celebrating.
Have not. I have said
I
it
heard
a
in the last
multitude
half
of times.
hour,
You do not deserve a trophy for doing your job.
You just started saying that.
That's not true.
Started saying that.
That's not true, and you're not going to get away with that.
Because that's all that people call in. I'm even a Michigan fan. I got to give it. Boy, did they handle that great today. They look great up there. Okay. Crisis management. Is that the bar we're jumping over now? I agree.
You know what? In today's college football, yes. Sign Penn State.
Okay.
Sign Baylor.
Okay.
Sign
Here's the
Florida
thing
State.
You're missing, though.
Yes, it is the bar.
The crisis isn't over. It's just starting.
Okay, so go backwards. Let me give you the part of this article
My Lord,
you need to explain.
You haven't figured anything out yet about this team
explain
in the program.
yourself. How do you begin? And this is classic you. You dip your toe in the water, and then you decide it's too cold to do it. What are you doing in the last quarter of this column? Bringing up Connor Cook not being a captain.
I didn't mention he wasn't a captain.
Max Boa. Really?
No, I didn't.
When one of its stars, Connor Cook, was ripped by anonymous NFL types for the arrogance and other impediments to team chemistry.
That's
not
exactly
a
what
captain.
David was ripped for.
Okay. Bob, you knew what you did.
But that's what it is.
You brought up Max Boa.
No,
you
it
brought up
wasn't the
Malik
captain thing. It was the
McDowell.
NFL
you
people.
brought up Khalil Gaines, who's like the 15th string corner leaving because he ain't ever going to play here.
He would have been first string now.
No, not true. Not allowed to make jokes. The point I'm making is, why would you spend all that time putting all these irrelevant things
in the bottom fourth of the column?
In the midst of a sexual assault deal.
Because here's the answer. Because how can I come out here and suggest that because things have been going on for a year and suggest that there's a cultural problem there and then cite Nothing else except for the charges today. How can I suggest that and not even bring up any other example?
But the examples you brought up were asinine.
Year last year was not a clue to what was unfolding on that team?
Here's what unfolded,
as far as
and the problem is
it's
not sexy or salacious like you want. The problem is they lost one of the best senior classes in school history. Who do you think kept Malik in check during the playoff year? He was in a defensive line room with 4 pros, including Shalik Calhoun.
You're right, and you know who admitted to that being a problem? That was Mark D'Antonio.
Fine, but why don't you write about the seniors not being there instead of making stuff up like Max Bullough didn't play in the Rose Bowl?
Wait. So all of a sudden, the head coach abdicates culpability because he didn't have a good senior class.
No,
so that's not his fault.
That's not true. You don't have historically unbelievable seniors every single year.
Exactly.
So that's not fair to go to D'Antonio and go, oh, bad culture. You went from one of the most accomplished senior classes to what? How many seniors they have last year? 8? And one of them was his guy, Tyler O'Connor, who was no damn good.
You can't acknowledge that things can erode very quickly?
I can, and here's the problem. I have. You ignored the biggest erosion. You want to make your case that the program is eroded. It was staring you in the face, but you took the easy way out.
Oh, no.
It eroded because Mark is sitting there and being too loyal to friends of friends.
I agree.
And keeping his assistants
because I've
around.
now written 2 columns on it because I sent another one after the press conference. I don't remember if this was in the first or the second, but I do think that's part of the culture. Have his assistant coaches, has his staff gotten complacent? Have they loosened their grip on the team?
My point to you.
That's part of it. Yes,
my point to you is the following. If you want to, don't act exasperated.
I am exasperated.
Well, you know what? I've sat here for 4 hours. Perhaps you've forgotten what a 4-hour show feels like.
I have. Thank God.
The point I'm making is, if you want to establish that things have fallen off a cliff, I have no problem with it. If you want to criticize him for recruiting Austin Robertson, you have every right to. They vetted him. They took a shot on a kid with red flags. They failed. The other 3 guys are not bad kids that they recruited. They were good kids that every school wanted who made a terrible choice.
This is where you're falling for the okie doke
How?
again. I'm not saying they're bad kids. I'm saying the culture of Michigan State was not about the highly touted recruit. They brought in kids.
You cannot say culture based off one season.
Yes, you can.
I disagree.
Yes, when 4 of the players in trouble were in the same damn highly touted recruiting class.
It's too little sample size, Bob. That's not fair.
Yes, it is fair.
If this was year 4, this was year 4 of this type stuff, and you had an Urban Meyer at Florida situation.
You admit it's more than one. You said it began during the championship.
The erosion on the coaching staff began. You didn't bring up the coaching staff.
Not in 1 year.
You brought up kids who don't play transferring. You brought up a kid.
To point out that there have been 8 in this offseason.
Defections happen everywhere.
And they're usually a sign of something.
No, they're not.
Yes.
Okay, what's it a sign of at your school?
It certainly isn't a sign that
What's it a sign of at your school? Nothing.
It's
a sign of a program
who
runs itself.
Or Harbaugh oversigned. That's a part of it. But normally it's a sign that they don't have playing. You cannot tell me there isn't tons of playing time available for any of these players.
Khalil Gaines had every opportunity.
What about the kid that just
from Florida who can't play?
What about John Reschke? What was that about?
That one I have no problem with. You can bring that up. That was a kid. No, and my point to you is you had some decent examples, but you're trying so hard to establish something that isn't there.
The culture is this. You did not need those. When you brought in highly touted recruits like that, Michigan State, thought they would fit the culture. Instead, they changed the culture. And you say, 4 of them are arrested.
Wow.
I mean, how much more evidence? I try to give you tepid evidence
4
and
kids
point out
out
that
of
Malik
85 scholarship players.
Malik McDowell's lack of effort was a sign, but you won't accept that either.
No, because here's the deal. We didn't have the seniors to keep it together last year. The playoff year, Malik was not a problem.
Whatever the reason, it was an issue.
No, but you didn't cite that. That's the problem I have. You didn't cite the real reasons, the assistants and a lack of senior leadership. You immediately went to this agenda, this hope and a prayer.
Are in there, or they're in there, and then listen.
It's not my job to edit your column. If you want to establish that line of thinking, then do it right or don't do it at all.
Falls at D'Antonio's feet.
Oh, to hell with that. You know what? Look, Ultimately, here's what falls at his feet.
Unbelievable.
No, here's what's unbelievable.
What?
Mark D'Antonio's allowed his loyalty to friends to get in the way of business. That's the story. Not this salacious connect the dots that you played blindfolded.
Stagnated and eroded.
We'll get to Wojo next. We are damn near 4 minutes over.
Oh, jeez.
I'm sorry, Bob. What do you want? You want to hear from Powers? I don't.
No,
Get out.
I don't want to hear from you either.
Well, good. Get out.